Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geomologist Presents. I'm here with Darkfluid, and today, after a long time in trying to organize this and me wanting to do this, we are going to review the 1981 hit. I think it's a hit, Heavy Metal cartoon anthology. I really enjoyed it when I was a kid. Probably watched it late at night on Cinemax or HBO, but got away with it. And I think it's been, to me, a mainstay now and then, mainly because of the music. I think we're finally getting to this because of uh, usually, once again, Jason Connerly had uh, best soundtracks or asked for best soundtracks because he was looking at the movie The Crow recently in one of his episodes. And Heavy Metal was a soundtrack that was thrown out by a couple people. And I think Darkfluid, you among them, you did that.
Yeah, I might have. That was already like a week ago, so it's probably slipped through my mind. But I'm definitely a fan of heavy metal. It's a cult classic. I watched it a ton when I was a kid, and I'm excited to talk about it. So I'm glad we could finally make it happen. Some scheduling difficulties on my end, and I apologize, but here we are.
Yeah, all of us. Yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to do this for like October, maybe even last year, and just never got around to it. And then this year, October was a screwed up month for me, at least. So now we're getting to do it. But I thank you, Dark Fluid, for coming on and discussing this show with me. And we're also going to throw in not just kind of analyzing and looking at it, but then I think several of the vignettes, right? It is effectively it's a film and is an anthology of various sort of sci-fi and fantasy stories tied together by a single theme. And of course, we're going to put it in the context of role-playing games because that's what we do. So yeah, I think I'm very excited to do this. I'm glad we're going to do this, and we'll see how this turns out.
Yeah.
So I guess the interesting thing is, right? It is a unique format. I don't know. There might be other like series that kind of do this sort of anthology, but as a movie, this anthology format and native cohesion. So just to let people know, full spoilers. They're going to be spoilers for all the different vignettes and for the overall story as a whole. But effectively, there is this creature or entity called the Lochnar, which, as you heard in the intro, there is the embodiment of ultimate evil. It's this glowing green orb, and it serves as a framing device to connect all the different stories. So I think I don't know. I like it. I think it works. It's a pretty cool, and to me, when I first saw it, surprising ending when you get to the final end and final story. I don't know if it was super telegraphed. We'll get to that, but or maybe we won't when we'll talk about it now. But
I
I
think it's very difficult to telegraph, even though when you go back and look, it does say right at the beginning, kind of give some of it away if once you've had a couple of watches, but I think it's pretty effective.
yeah. So this is really it is a 1981 Canadian adult animated science fiction anthology film. It is directed by Gerald Potterton. I don't know if he has anything else. Yellow Submarine he did. That's his best, other than Heavy Metal, his best known classic. The screenplay was by Daniel Goldberg, also from Canada. He did Meatballs, writer and producer of Meatballs and Stripes, and producer of the Hangover series of films, and was nominated for a TV movie called The Late Shift, and also by Len Bloom, who I think this is his claim to fame, honestly. So that's kind of like the overall, and each sequence has its own set of crew and animators, voice actors, and music, and even some of the studios are different. So I'll probably throw in anecdotes, little tidbits about that. But yeah, I think do you think it's effective? Do you think this anthology format is effective?
I think it is. I think given the nature of the stories themselves, it works really well. I mean, I've definitely seen other anthology formats that are much weaker,
Mm-hmm.
where you can, clearly say, it's just was to throw them all together. And it is to an effect, to some point. I mean, I think for any anthology where you're going to have a lot of creative freedom, it's whatever you use as a MacGuffin to throw it together is going to be a little bit flimsy. if you want them to have a lot of freedom in their stories. And I think as a MacGuffin, because it's something that's kind of cosmic horror, large, timeless type of thing that works really well to
Mhm.
tell stories all over the universe and lots of different genres, themes without having to restrict the artist's creativity. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
and art style. Yeah, with saying that art styles at creative studios, right, are very different.
yeah, I think, when you're talking about like anthologies, definitely these days, and even after this, a lot more anthologies are going to be series, not like a movie. But the only thing I can think of close to this is some of the horror anthologies. That's the only anthologies I can think of that are still done in movie format or were at a lot at the time. And they always have some flimsy thing to tie it together that I think is in most cases less effective than the Lochnar. I think it's a pretty clever thing, and I like how a lot of was able to be folded in.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
think it kind of
So,
strengthens it in some ways.
so do you want to talk about each individual? Do you want to talk about in broad terms first, and then go back to the individual vignettes, or do you want to talk about vignette by vignette?
Vignette by vignette, then talk about the impact of the movie and some things in general. Um, I think we can touch. I think let's touch on the general. If we start touching on general themes in the movie, I think we're going to start talking about individual vignettes too much. And so we might as well do at least a light touch on each of the vignettes and what we thought about them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the opening sequence is what they title "Soft Landing," um, based on a comic by the same name by Dan O'Bannon and Thomas Workington. It's kind of when I first saw it, it's kind of hokey, but now, especially playing Traveler, I'm like, huh, that's plausible. So they it starts with the space shuttle, and then this kind of 1960 Corvette comes out of it, and it's kind of the astronaut is seated in the car, kind of lands, right?
Yeah, and I think some of the hokiness, and it might for some kids age it a bit, is due to the mixed media nature of the animation,
Uh-huh.
where they're using like a live, like a like car model, like mixing video and photograph type
Right.
information, like practical effect with the animation.
Yeah.
But it also kind of sets the tone in
Mhm.
that this is going to be very stylistic. This is going to be artists, that are able to do something different with each of their vignettes, both story-wise, style and theme-wise, and even animation-wise. And I think that kind of sets the tone for the movie in that regard.
Yeah, surprisingly, the music for this is not the title track, Heavy Metal,
Yeah.
that you heard maybe an excerpt of, potentially, depending on copyright. But it's in fact Radar Rider by Riggs that is the music for that vignette. And I think it's cool because there are such things in like the Traveler verse of open topped air rafts, and you could conceivably do that. I mean, you probably would burn up in the atmosphere unless you had like a heavy vac suit or a type of thing. But
You have to go into a little bit of fantastical technology, but it's kind of cool and stylistic. And
yeah,
they didn't have him sitting there with sunglasses on. They had him in a
they had
spacesuit,
him a
like a classic
spacesuit.
astronaut.
Yeah,
So I
there you
mean,
go. There you go. Yeah, it could be. So I thought that was pretty neat. And that kind of he kind of lands, and then it goes right into the framing story, which is this guy Grimaldi. That's the title of it. Arrives at home and is greeted by his daughter, and she says, "Hey, do you have something for me?" And I don't know, he was kind of like Grimaldi seems kind of creepy to me, um, but then yeah, the Lochnar comes out and melts Grimaldi. That's a common theme. I don't know. I wonder how the Lochnar chooses who it melts or not. That's something maybe we should try to figure out. I don't know. Um,
yeah,
Seems
I'm not
random. Maybe it's
sure.
not.
I'm not sure if there's a consistent theme to that, but it does show that the Lochnar has sentience and can do what it wants to do. Sometimes it lets people handle it, and sometimes it doesn't let people even get physical contact with it before it says enough of you. You
Yeah.
know, I think though they jump right in. They definitely like right first thing it's kind of like a daughter with her daddy coming home and it's like right there in front of her, melt the dad and then get
And
right into it.
I'm the sum of all evils. Look into me, and I'll tell you why I'm evil. Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah. So
And it kind of
they
goes into, I've chosen you to show because this is where like the little spoiler if you haven't seen it before. kind of gives out where it, you kind of get a little spoiler on what it says to her and why it's showing her that kind of can lead to giving
Oh,
away
yes,
the
true.
ending.
It's true. The hair.
Um, yeah, I don't know if I should spoil that, but you know, but right from the beginning, you kind of get a little of that, and it starts going into that first vignette. It's telling her, it's showing her all the things it's
Other things.
encountered and examples of its power and its evil and its reach.
Yeah. And the studio is Hallison Bachelor Animated. Interestingly, Percy Rodriguez, who is a Canadian actor who appeared in many television shows from the 50s to the 80s, is a voice of uncredited, but credited now as the Lochner, which is interesting. Um,
Mm.
direct these, I guess, sets of framing story is the crew is Harold Whitaker and John Hallis, director and producer from that studio, Hallis and Bachelor. But they go right into the first story, which is called Harry Canyon. That's my favorite ones in the tale, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of a noir, very um, noir classic. I know it's a cyberpunk almost
Right.
feeling, you know. I like the theme and tone of that, because it seems to, fit with that classic deadbeat, low life story, low
Right.
level story. That's why I really, it's like that throws right into there. We're talking this cosmic evil and everything, but really it's just a low life, low level detective story like you'd get in any kind of noir type setup.
I love a lot of the little nice world building tidbits that are thrown in there. So the original story is by Daniel Goldberg and Leon Len Blum, and it's based on a story called The Long Tomorrow that was done originally by Mobius. So it is, like you said, cyberpunk, dystopian, crime-ridden New York City. I think they give a year, like 2031, I think is the year they give, which is interesting. So about 6 years from now.
Yeah. And this is one of the things. It's like it's that this vignette starts out with like a little section of them mining and
Oh, right.
discovering the Lochnar. And of
Yeah.
course, the first guy to touch it gets melted there.
Yeah. Like a
And
little beetle alien or something gets.
yeah, and to me, and we'll get into it later, I really like that little section. And that's like some of the best animation, that little bitty section and some of the
Uh,
most creative uh in the entire movie. It's just totally Mobius if you know Mobius's
yeah.
work.
Oh,
And
right.
it just shows you how much of this from that era is inspired, how influential Mobius is. Everyone forgets now how much he inspired and how much, if it wasn't Mobius, everybody took inspiration from Mobius at that time. And I guess it should mention a lot of these stories came out of, hence the name, Heavy Metal Magazine,
Right.
and the graphic novel style stories that were presented there.
Yeah. And if you don't know who Mobius is, it's a pseudonym used by Jean-Henri Gaston Girard, um, who was a French artist, cartoonist, writer. So he worked in that bandes dessinées tradition. So pretty interesting
A
stuff.
lot of fantasy
Yeah.
slash sci-fi work at the time, 2D and animated movies were inspired by him. He was very influential.
Right. Yeah. So we get that, like, how that the Lochnar, I guess, found in some sort of dig, and then it travels to New York. There's a like an exhibition of this Lochnar, so it must be some sort of alien artifact that uh, people want to see and love, um, and then you meet Harry Canyon, who right off the bat, he's got little tricks in his taxi cab. He's a taxi cab driver, and disintegrates a guy trying to mug him, and then meets the girl.
More disintegration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Throws the gun in his glove compartment from the guy who tried to mug him. Sets up. There's a lot. The storytelling in this section is really good. The writing. There's setups and payoffs all across the board. It's like there's disintegrator he's got in his back seat. The gun he grabs from the guy when he disintegrates him, throws it in the glove compartment full of guns that he
yeah.
keeps in there, as he collects from people.
And like
So
you said, it's like a low level story, right? It's like gangsters who want this Lochnar, and the girl whose father was killed and possessed the Loch was the archaeologist in the original little the first part of this story. All the way. By the way, the dig, the archaeological part, the dig was done to the background of Veteran of the Psychic Wars by Blue Oyster Cult. We will probably I'll throw in little tidbits of the music because we We should talk about the soundtrack at some point in general, but I'll
Yeah, yeah.
tidbits. Um, so right, so it's like a classic, like you said, film noir, double cross.
Girl hops into his cab. I didn't want this.
Yeah,
Tries to dump her off at the cops, but in
I
typical
thought that was
dystopian,
pretty interesting. The little cop scene. I might steal that for a story. Like the cops want to charge you 1,000 creds for
it's completely a
investigation.
cyberpunk
Completely dystopia.
noir.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is how much it costs to do an investigation, and he's just like, screw it, and walks out with her.
yeah. And the bad
Um,
guys want it. She decides to sell it to the bad guys and split the money with Harry. After they, and this is, of course, this is before that she kind of seduces him in a way, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
She stays at his apartment, seduces him. Now, at this point, it's up to you. Does she seduce him so that he'll help, or
is it genuine? Who knows?
and yeah, she comes up. The gangsters meet him
Hmm.
and offer him, offer him an out to, tell her they're just after the Lochnar, and
Yeah,
she strikes a deal, says she's going to sell it to him, and they could do whatever, and will he help her? So, you know, in typical noir fashion, even though he's pessimistic about everything, sure, why not? It's a lot of money,
yeah,
helps her out 50-50 split.
yeah. And then she wants to renegade on the deal, but we've already had the setup as she puts the gun to the back of his head, and well, I guess she gets disintegrated.
And in typical noir fashion, he's nonplussed by yet another disappointment. No one's happy.
Yeah, but
Puts it up as a long fare with a big tip. He's like, too
uh,
bad, too bad that kid.
oh well, it would have been nice, but
Yeah, but just another day, right?
it's another day. Yeah, so I really like that. And also there was also like a few other songs in there. True Companion by Donald Fagen, Blue Lamp by Stevie Nicks, Open Arms by Journey, which is you
Probably
think
the biggest one in that
the biggest
segment,
one, that one, and then Heartbeat by Riggs. And then there's also like an ongoing symphonic track throughout.
Yeah, like a score.
There's a score as well. We probably should touch on that at some point. So I think it's kind of helps to bring and focus everything in this anthology together.
Yeah, and in this one we start getting the first voice actors and
Yeah,
all these guys that are going to be repeating roles in here. John Candy and
yeah. As a desk sergeant. Yeah,
yeah, and a lot of the same. The ones that come to the top of my head, although he's not specifically in this one, are John Candy and Eugene Levy. The two that I know from other things a lot of. They're
yeah.
frequently in here
Well,
that you
John
wouldn't
Candy
think
was
of.
in this one. He was a desk sergeant, actually. The one.
Oh, no, I said Eugene Levy's not in this one.
No, he's
Sorry
not in this
for
one.
the.
It's Harvey Atkin, who you probably know from Meatballs. He was Morty Melnick in Meatballs, and
Mm,
it's also Sergeant Ronald Coleman in Cagney and Lacey, among others. So he's been a lot of bit actors that you've seen here and there. Susan Roman was the girl. Richard Romanus, who you know from Wizards and Hey Good Looking,
hmm
Mean Martin Scorsese's Mean Streets was Harry Canyon, great Harry Canyon, kind of cynical voice. And
Yeah, New Yorker.
Al Waxman was was Rudnick, and he was in starring roles in Cagney and Lacey as well. So
And
most
this is where
Canadian voice actors.
And this is where it's like, to me, it's like the misconception of soundtrack. It starts to become very clear here. It's that although the movie's called heavy metal, it's less a reflection of the music,
Uh huh.
although there's a lot of rock music in this. It's a spectrum of rock music.
Right.
Um, but heavy metal is a little bit misleading. It's more called heavy metal because that's what the magazine was called,
Right.
that all the stories came from, and everyone like thinks that it's going to be, all about heavy metal music. Not that there isn't some in here, and not that that's definitely part of the culture, but
Yeah.
um, you've got a wider range of music in this. And it's not. I hear some people talk about like, oh, this is not a very heavy metal soundtrack, and it's like, well, this is the name of the magazine, not
Yeah,
the
it's a
name of the
magazine. It's
music.
not the music, but the
Yeah.
music's good. I mean, there's some good
Oh
music.
yeah.
There's music that you'll catch on these classic rock radio stations all the time that come up. I mean, so yeah. So the next story is definitely my favorite.
Yeah,
That's
it's mine
Den.
too.
So
I
you
was
want to
going to
talk
say
about
it's mine too.
Den? John
Oh man.
John Candy does the
So
voice, by the way, of Den.
yeah, it's a very action-packed, tongue-in-cheek, over the top, uh, swords and planets type
Yep.
story. So you've got nerdy teenage kid. It's the framework you've seen in lots of different stories, whether it's presented exactly like John Carter or Mars and stuff. You know, you've got this human on Earth, meteorite lands, which is of course the Lochnar. He
Yep.
discovers it. John Candy tells a bit comedically about his life as a skinny teenager, you
Hmm.
know, nerdy teenager there, and he's doing science experiments. Lochnar, with his science experiment, gets struck with electricity, and suddenly he's floating through space in a portal, you know, in time and space. Lands, loses all his clothes on some foreign planet where there's an old, almost like um, Central American pyramid
Lunatic.
style, you know, maybe, you know, ancient Middle Eastern altar type pyramid thing.
Yeah.
And they're doing a sacrifice. All of the dialogue in this thing is delivered simultaneously, like straight and dry, but absolutely comedic.
Yeah.
Comedic situations, comedic you know, when combining what's dialogue happening with the tone,
Uh-huh.
it comes off comedic, whatever it is. And then John Candy's internal monologue as this teenager who lands and he's suddenly transformed into a
Yeah. Her-
Herculean, you know,
Yeah.
bodybuilder type body who's completely nude
Yeah.
and his inner thoughts combined with his outer speech.
Yeah. Yeah, because he speaks in a very like monosyllabic monotone,
Deep, you
basically.
know, deep voiced, and
Yeah.
inside he's still the little high
I
pitched
am
kid
Den,
that's
basically. But then his inner monologue, his inner thoughts are like the kid.
yeah, they're constantly like, "Oh wow,
Yeah.
check out my body." You know,
Yeah.
it's like this is way better than my old body.
Yeah. So
So first thing, he interrupts the sacrifice where they're calling this mass, you know, you assume some sort of ancient god, you know, Cthulhu type, you know, evil to grant power to them. Where the man, you know, doing the sacrifice is now holding the Lochnar. And uh he saves the girl and we discover that he's now can hold his breath forever, super strong,
yeah.
and of course discovers the girl who introduces herself and immediately throws herself at him and he's like, "Wow, this is great."
This never
Um,
happens to me. Back to
yeah, this never happens to me type stuff. And
he's also like a plucked from Earth, by the way. So
mhm. And he's soon captured,
Captain Wells.
yeah, captured by the one of the let's call them the rebel power of the planet, which is it's almost like presented. He's almost presented as like a Greek godlike
Oh,
or
Ard,
something
yeah.
where he is human in nature, but he clearly discovers is impervious to damage type thing
Right.
and ultra powerful. And um, it appears to be the only human. Everybody else is some sort of beast man.
Yeah.
And asks him to steal the Lochnar uh, back from the female queen who is ruling the planet, who is in his opposition, so that he can have the power and do that. And what if I don't? Well, you die, she dies, we all die. You know the story. He's very dismissive of everything. It's like I don't have
Yeah.
time to talk about this, do it or not.
Right.
Sends him with his best man, who's a beast man, and they break into the temple, and where we learn comedically that the beast man is very eloquent and speaks with a
I know. It's pretty funny.
uh, so in trying to steal the Lochnar, they're caught, of course, but then in a very comedic fashion, the when the queen wants him to have his her followers ask if they can kill him, and she says, of course, but then wait, no, no, and no, 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 I have other plans for him, and her followers are very this way.
Yeah.
Oh no, not again.
Not
This always
again.
happens.
Yeah.
And so he, of course, then she wants him to sleep with her, and he's like, "Wow, twice in one day!" All this stuff, you know.
Yeah.
It's very teenage boy inside, in just every like you could tell this is very targeted and just hits right home for teenage boys of the era. It's
Yeah.
very teenage boy targeted, and she's going to bring peace to the world because he brings her so much happiness. But then, of course, discovers that they've stolen the Lochnar and
Yeah.
turns on him. He
And then of course
escapes
Ard is going to now Ard instead of the queen is going to sacrifice
the
uh,
girl
the girl,
whom he loves.
yeah, Catherine Wells from
Hmm.
Gibraltar, from the British colony of Gibraltar. It's probably,
Hmm.
I guess, Gibraltar is a British colony. Anyway, so so yeah, so then they win the day.
The
They
queen and the queen is in pursuit of him, and he's running to save the girl. They don't really fill in the blanks of how he knows, but from being sacrificed.
Yeah.
And what ensues is a giant melee. The queen and the rebel are fighting over the Lochnar in a very comedic way.
Mhm.
And he's of course fighting, and we won't go into it, but manages essentially to do away with both the queen and the rebel at the same time.
Right.
And she uh, is it Catherine? You said
Yeah,
Catherine
Catherine.
Wells.
He and Catherine Wells ride off into the
Yeah,
sunset.
she points out you could be ruler of all these people, and of course they pan across them again in a comedic manner, and they're this motley crew.
Monsters. Yeah.
He's like, no way.
Yeah.
They hops off with her and they take off. He's like, I'm just gonna live my life. This is great. We I don't and it kind of starts in the Lochnar and ending the story basically acknowledges that he's one of the few people in the entire story who chooses to
Chooses two. Yeah, it's
yeah
interesting.
to pass on the power and the temptation of the Lochnar. Um, but he's
And
a
then
you know
that the
base
Lochnar itself kind of flat rises into the sky, and then it's picked up by somebody else.
and he kind of is dismissive of the whole thing, even when people don't go to my temptations. They still can't eventually escape my.
Right. Right.
Um, and the next story, um,
Captain Stern.
Captain Stern.
Yeah. So basically, on the space station, this guy Lincoln Stern, he's a corrupt. You learn uh, a corrupt space captain. He's on trial by something called the Federation for numerous charges of anything you could think of: murder,
Terrible person. Terrible person.
terrible, violating, also speeding. He's not
Yeah.
guilty against the advice of his lawyer, who fears Stern will be found guilty and executed. He says he expects to be acquitted because he has bribed a witness named Hand Over Fist to like hand over fist. And Fist takes a stand, revealing him to be the man and he's the one who discovered the Lochnar actually aboard the station. He fidgets it with it as he testifies, and he praises Stern, but then the Lochnar influences him to blurt out the truth, and then he becomes this hulking brute that then chases Stern through the station.
Saying he's going to execute him
Yeah,
right
he's
there.
one.
And the tone shift in this is kind of gives you an example of the diversity in the stories.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, because we started out with a noir, serious, and then we went to almost like a pulpy, but not even pulp like uh, uh,
It's kind of like space
fantastic
sci-fi
heroic.
parody, right? Sci-fi
Yeah,
parody.
but almost like pulpy with parody. And
Yeah.
now we're in like completely what I would say is almost like a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy style sci-fi farce,
Mhm.
and very quirky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
So it's funny is like when the big brute hand over fist confronts Stern, Stern gives him the payoff, and the fist turns into his little scrawny form, and then Stern ejects him. It's very
yeah,
interesting. Yeah. So then so sometimes again the Lochnar betrays the person it gives power. But it's
yeah,
interesting.
and
Roger Bumpus is hand over fist. You might know him from uh, SpongeBob SquarePants. He is the voice of Squidward. Roger,
yeah, and
Your
um,
buddy Eugene Levy is Captain Stern.
yeah, Captain Stern. He does a great job. I mean,
Yeah,
I think that he doesn't. Uh, as a voice actor, you wouldn't know it was Eugene Levy if somebody
no,
didn't tell you.
yeah. And then John
Um,
Vernon. Wow, John Keith Vernon is the who is a Dean Wormer in Animal House is the prosecutor. John. So it's like I mean you know these people, you know these voices. What's interesting from 70s and 80s movies. I think it's
and a lot of this you can definitely see the Canadian influence, Second City
oh yeah
type guys. The CTV actors and things like that. This is one of the. I mean, it's an entertaining sequence, but as far as like story, it's one of the weaker sequences because it's just the trial and then him chasing him around the
yeah
space station. It's
with
more
the
of like
music with Reach Out by Cheap Trick in the background.
which is a great song,
Yeah,
and it's more of a like music and animation type show,
yeah, yeah,
full of ridiculousness. Full of ridiculousness because he's of course tearing the space station apart with his hands, and you got buildings with dust clouds in space and all
yeah.
kinds of silliness.
Yeah, it's silly. All right, the next one
Um,
is a really good one, I think.
Yeah, and
He
so
takes
Stern's
heaven
hand
speed.
burns up in the atmosphere. It's the only thing left of him, or not Stern, but
Hanover fist.
hand over fist holding the Lochnar in his hand. Um, Now there was originally a sequence that was going to be produced here,
Okay.
that was cut. I didn't know about that actually until I watched this time.
Oh, it
And
was in
I
the one that you watched, or it was.
No, what happened was honestly, I just got curious about something. I think I got curious about maybe it was a song I was looking up,
Oh,
some
okay.
details about it, and it mentioned this other segment, and I was like, "What segment?" And I went and researched. So there was originally a segment called Neverwhere Land here,
Oh,
where that the Lochnar lands on the ocean, and then there was like a Pink Floyd. You can go out to YouTube and watch. They have the original kind of rough animation.
okay.
It's like a rough animation of it with Pink Floyd's Time in the background.
Wow.
I think they might have released it on a couple of special features editions, as an extra. But essentially, it's just the Lochnar going from the pool of water and showing evolution, like the evolution of the planet,
Oh,
and the
interesting.
Lochnar influences the entire evolution of the planet. In the end, it kind of starts to, it's almost like it's basically Earth, because then at the end they go through all the different atrocities, World War II and all that stuff, which kind of
Mm.
leads up to the
Oh,
next
wow.
segment
Yeah,
that's
that'd been
actually
a
in the
good
movie.
transition. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think it was just cut due to like
Time.
time.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an hour 30. I mean, movies way back then were an hour and 30 minutes, and then we're done. It's not like 3 hour movies, like,
Yeah, and it was cut early too because they didn't finish the principal animation. It's like animation, but storyboard animation
oh,
that when
interesting.
you go out there and look out there.
Cool.
But yeah, this one was pretty cool. It is a shorter one, and
Yep.
it does make sense now to me why it's short because it was kind of the lead in to it, uh, almost like they were two segments pieced together.
Right.
Um, but yeah, this is World War II, B-17 flying over the ocean.
Mhm.
Um, and after a bombing run, the pilot and co-pilot are going to check on the crew, and the whole crew's dead.
Yep.
Co-pilot sees the whole crew's dead, is checking on everybody, and radios to the front because he sees something glowing, floating following the plane, which we know
Right.
is the Lochnar.
Lochner. Yeah.
Um, Lands in the plane, and all the dead bodies in the plane start to rise as zombies.
Yep.
Um, on his way back, the co-pilot's killed, and the pilot locks himself in the cockpit. And before they can bust through the door, he bails out, parachutes down.
But where he lands, effectively, it's a graveyard of airplanes from a lot of different times, and there are dead things who surround him, and so we kind of can speculate the end.
Yeah, they
This is
don't show
actually
us the
where,
end, but
yeah, but this is
he's.
actually where we have the heavy metal "Taking a Ride" song by Don Felder that is so prevalent or common when you think about the movie heavy metal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a song in this section. It's relatively short. Relatively little dialogue. And again, this is more of like a zombie horror. This is more of a
Right,
horror segment,
right.
like straight up horror. And it's again just shows that it is really it the artists and the authors are given full artistic freedom. They don't have to stick to hey, we're doing a sci-fi fantasy thing here.
Yeah,
They're able to just do whatever they're doing as artists and tell their story, which I think is what part of the strength of the movie is, that you don't end up with some milk toast phoned it in. Whatever they're doing, they went full out and were going for it rather than trying to squeeze it in. Well, we got to make it fit over here,
yeah, yeah,
type of thing.
yeah. So I did enjoy that one, and then the one after that, I guess we don't know what happened to the Lochnar. Just kind of appears, I guess, right? Or was the Lochnar even in this one?
Yeah, this is the one where they make a big jump.
Yeah.
Um, and the
So beautiful and so dangerous.
yeah, they go straight to like the Pentagon in modern times, or at
Yeah.
least modern
Based on a
times at the
comic
time.
by the same name by Agnes McKee.
Yeah, Angus McKee.
Angus McKee. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember if we see the Lochnar here. I don't remember seeing it, but it could have been in the Pentagon section or in
Well,
like on somebody's
yeah, I don't even remember it being there.
tie pin or something.
Yeah. Maybe when he sees the lock. Oh, the Lochnar is on the lock on Gloria's locket.
See, I thought I remembered it being on a pin or a tie pin or
Yeah,
something
but
like that
we don't know
somebody's
how it
wearing.
got there, though, right? We don't really.
No, there's a big. This one's a jump where we just don't see anything.
But maybe, well, maybe from maybe they intended something to go transition from World War II. A la the Pentagon hides it in a warehouse.
Yeah, there might have been. Yeah, and it's given to her as the boyfriend of some Pentagon or
Yeah,
girlfriend of some Pentagon
interesting.
high level.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so they're at a Pentagon meeting,
Hmm.
and it kind of ties in. They're talking about mutations plaguing the United States.
Right.
Some but the one of the guys, the scientist, in the meeting,
Hmm.
when he's trying to give his analysis and dismissals, notices. That's probably, yeah, he does. He notices the locket on her neck. I thought he just went after her and started going crazy, but
Yeah.
it causes him to kind of obsess and start going weird and then go for her. And just as he's going for her, a giant spaceship,
The one in the background here.
yeah, behind Carl, um, drills through the roof of the Pentagon. And I think this is one of the things a lot of Angus McKee's imagery and animation or illustrations were pretty influential, I think, later on in a lot of this like sci-fi, I don't want to say absurdist, but like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy kind
Yeah.
of style, that playful style. He's really influential.
Hmm.
Um, and some of his art is very influential on when I think of like that style of like old Battlestar Galactica comics and stuff like that.
Hmm.
He's got very distinct and bold imagery on some of his like more serious panels and cockpit design and stuff like that. It's really cool where where you see the pilots and their red lights on their face and stuff like that. Um, and sucks them up into the spaceship. Um, and we see once they get up there a very actually almost like a ho hum scene
Yeah.
in the spaceship. Again, it's back to that like absurdist
Yep.
somewhat, where just another day at work for the guys in the ship,
Yep.
and they're just crew doing their job. Um, and the woman, Gloria,
Yep.
she immediately is there's a little android robot, John
Played by
Candy, I
John
think
Candy.
voices. Yeah.
Yeah. Alice
Uh,
Clayton plays the Gloria. You probably heard her voice, very high pitched, childlike.
hmm It turns out the guy that went crazy on her was a malfunctioning robot that was put there, I guess, by aliens. We're
Yep.
estimating. They don't really explain, and
No.
he's retrieving her, and then realizes he's retrieved the girl, which he's suddenly interested in. This little mouse kind of eared robot.
Yep.
Um, and he convinces her to stay aboard and become amorous with him. To which the two alien pilots complain, like, what, why is the robot always getting all the Earth girls?
And that's Eugene Levy and Harold Ramis actually.
Yeah,
Solon Zeke.
yeah. Which they have a classic late '70s, early '80s scene for the time of you
Lots of
know
drugs.
lots of drugs, partying, um,
Yeah.
which is their voices are perfect for,
Hmm.
which given their typecasting in some movies and stuff at the time.
Yeah.
Um, And we have a couple of scenes intercut with the robot and her talking about life and their future,
Yeah.
and then interspersed with the two pilots trying to fly while under the influence.
Plutonian Nyborg. Yeah. Plutonian Nyborg.
Yeah. Good Nyborg.
Yeah. And
And
they
they have,
too intoxicated to fly straight. They crash
yeah, they
at the space
crash.
station. I don't know. I guess the Lochnar flies out at some point. But also the song "Heavy Metal" by Sammy Hagar is in the sequence too. So
And this to me was always, when I was young,
it's a
the
skip.
the the signature song of the movie to me. This was
Oh,
the
was the
signature version.
signature?
If
I thought
for
this was the one that
me,
you skipped.
now this is
Sequence you
the
skipped.
this song, this Sagar
Yeah.
heavy metal song was
Yeah.
the signature heavy metal song for
Yeah.
me watching the movie. Um, And it's a great song. It was off of, I don't know. It's actually was released on one of his big albums that
Yep.
is
Was
probably
it
lost in
from
the
Three
mix.
Lockbox?
No, it's from what is it standing?
Oh, okay.
Something standing.
Yeah, Standing Hampton.
Standing Hampton. Yeah, it's off Standing Hampton. Of course, it probably got lost on that one since there's so many
Yeah.
hits on that. I don't know how many times platinum that album went. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I think
that's the one I think about when I think of heavy metal.
one of the heavier songs in the movie and the section it's in, it's just got that heavy guitar riff with
Yep.
that spaceship slowly, floating through space. It's just there's plenty of audio space for the song to work, shall we say, in that section of the movie.
And it has a great, oh, can you feel the static? So many contacts being made. We've got
Yeah.
front fanatics tearing down the barricade to reach the stage. Can you feel the rage?
And I just remember
Heavy metal.
50,000 watts of power.
Yep. 50,000. Yeah, that's a fantastic lyrics. I mean, so she cuts through the crowd just like a wedge. So it's great. I can imagine it's very visual, a fantastic song. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but that leads into the final story before the epilogue, and that one I think is I don't know, maybe that one's my favorite. I don't there.
Tarna, the last one is
Tarna,
a really good one. It's definitely a second, but I think
Tarna is definitely like a high fantasy, you know.
it's a really good one. It's got everything you want from that heavy metal magazine, and especially role-playing game,
Yeah,
fantasy, like album cover. I mean, look at the cover
yeah. Look at the
like
cover.
behind me, like the cover of the movie poster. That's the Tarna thing. That's
Yeah,
like a classic heavy metal magazine cover right there.
right. And also by
And
It's based on the story Arzak by Mobius, which is a
yeah, so another Mobius.
influence.
Yeah, and this is where and one thing to remember in some of these scenes we get just voiceover from the Lochnar and we see a
Yeah.
transition animation. And some of these scenes we get an actual scene back in the house
Hmm.
with the little girl in the Lochnar where he's talking to her, and that serves as the vehicle for transition.
Hmm.
And
And now
so
the
that's
Lochnar is a giant meteor. It crashes into a volcano, um, and then people climb it. They get covered in the green slime, are not disintegrated, but become some
mhm.
sort of evil mutants in a way, or
And I
undead.
can't remember the exact phrasing to intro this, but where he's talking to the little girl, the Lochnar says, "Now let me show you how I the how I affect the extinction of your people," or
Right,
something of that
something like
nature.
that. Hmm.
Yeah. And so it's clear that there's a tie-in with this last one now. We're kind of getting that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so that starts a crazy war. All the people that are twisted by the Lochnar are killing this
they kill this
uh,
peaceful city of scholars. And,
utopian type society.
yeah, and then that's when they play "Mob Rules" by Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
It's a great. They even play the kind of intro to Mob Rules before that, right? E5, E5150, and then Mob Rules. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Through all the chaos and the fighting, it's really
yeah,
well placed. One of the heaviest songs in in the
in
movie,
the
you know.
movie. So the leaders summon these creatures called the Tarakians, the once powerful but declining warrior race that are like the city protectors. And then they show Tarna, who's a beautiful warrior, mute, the last of the Tarakians. She gets a summons, ritually prepares herself. A lot of skin there in that one too. Well, animated skin, and
A lot of animated skin and
yeah.
yeah.
Then
Um,
she flies her avian mount to the beleaguered city, finds him dead, and then she determines to avenge them, follows the trail, etc.
yeah, and so they kind of do some setup here where they say, "Oh, there are no more Tarakians," and said, "Oh, there's one left." And it's like, "What's one?" And they're like, "One can do many, can do much," you know. So we already get the setup that, along that combined with the ritual, you can tell she's a badass. We're not messing around here. You're expecting big things from her, and she kind of has the classic. The first scene where she gets to town there is kind of the classic Western
Yeah,
or Star Wars cantina scene,
yeah, that was a
right?
good scene.
She walks in, even looks over the swinging doors with the
Mm-hmm,
eyes,
mm-hmm.
like classic Western, steps in, um, and almost invites trouble purposefully,
Yep.
cleans house. Um, and then gets information on where they're at, the mutant leaders and their band.
Yeah, but it's almost as if they're ready for her because
Hmm.
she's captured. When she kills some, is captured. Her mount's captured. I actually thought that the mount got killed, and I was pretty upset when I. But
Yeah, and I
no.
actually I actually didn't remember the gap here because you can see it, there's a little bit of a gap
Hmm.
between like, they captured her because they kind of cut to the leadership and they're like, oh yeah, we captured her
Yeah,
already.
and then yeah,
And
she's tortured, thrown into an open pit. But then her mount escapes and rescues her, and it gets. I mean, they get both get jacked up pretty good.
yeah, they both get in the escape get injured pretty badly. Land not too far away. It's not the way you thought it was going to go.
No, no, but I mean, yeah. So she escapes.
Captured,
She
captured,
escapes,
tortured, and whipped, and then escapes, and before they
shot
can get
down,
away, shot down.
and
Yeah,
she faces off with the mutant leader, and they have a duel to the death.
who in a very heavy metal style rides a giant bat
Yeah,
in and
yeah,
lands, in his cloak.
yeah.
He's got a hand with a circular blade on
Hot
it.
blade. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
Um,
with the last of her, after defeating him with the last of
oh,
her strength, right?
and again, though, let's just say not the way you expected the fight to
No.
go. She's really getting beat. She gets beat, and her
Yeah.
bird, her bird grabs the guy's ankle and distracts him,
Yeah.
allows her to get the upper hand, and um, yeah, then this is where it takes a turn and kind of ties everything together in the story.
Right. So with the last of her strength, Tarna and her companion, they kind of fly towards the volcano. As they approach, the Lochnar tries to warn her off, saying that her sacrifice would be futile, but she ignores it.
Yeah,
And
and this is kind of interesting because this is the first time they cut back and forth to show you like the
yes.
connection. They cut from the current story back to the house where the Lochnar is with the girl and the Lochnar is speaking to her from there.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
And then that ties into the epilogue as
mhm.
Tarna drives the sword into the Lochnar.
Yeah, so she uses her sword, sacrifices herself and her bird. There's like lightning and power, magic, and the Lochnar in that final scene is struck and killed in that location. And back at the house, the girl runs away, runs out of the house,
Yeah.
and the house explodes and the Lochnar is destroyed. Which is interesting. It's one of the other only practical effects. They use like a model to blow up the house instead of
Yep.
being animated.
Hmm. Wow. That's pretty cool.
Which I didn't remember. But then as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, it was always, it's not like I completely forgot, just didn't think about it. And she wanders out into the fields and she finds a bird
Yeah.
like Tarna was flying, hops on, flies off, and then a new.
Yeah. A new cycle is created. A new
Mhm.
Tarakian is reborn. So
Yeah, and we have a different narrator who says that they are the oracle, like the Oracle of Time,
yeah,
or
something like that. Yeah.
yeah, and so you get almost like a protagonist. We never see them, but we get almost like a protagonist counter to the Loch-Nar's evil,
Hmm.
which is like this Oracle of Time that we
It's
are
almost
just
if they
getting
wanted
introduced.
to make a sequel or something.
Oh yeah, it's almost. Um,
But that
but
yeah, fun songs by well in the during the Tarno, there was one Through Being Cool by Devo was what was
mhm.
playing at the little bar scene. And then at the end is Working in a Coal Mine also by Devo. More lighthearted type of
Yeah.
songs than the heavy stuff that was before. So cool.
Now, something I didn't know about this is that Ivan Reitman produced it, and I don't know why I never knew that.
Yeah.
Um, which I would have never thought he would have been behind it, just given his other
Usually
movies.
comedy, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's some
Now, if you
comedy
look
in
at the
it. So,
cast and a lot of the actors, it makes sense because there's a lot of
right.
actors he worked with, but not his style of movie.
No, not at all. Pretty interesting.
But overall, yeah, I enjoyed it. Hadn't watched it in a few years, and I had obviously nostalgic memories for it, but I still enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
thought it was pretty good. Not something I would probably watch regularly anymore. Part of that's just got a lot more variety of options and things, new media to watch these days than went back then. But definitely something I'd watched multiple times over the years. And was always a, favorite of mine, especially from that cult classic perspective. I mean, back then there wasn't that much media.
No,
If you were a role player, game enthusiast, you liked fantasy, sci-fi, and all that stuff that really touched on all these things, and definitely nothing or not much, shall we say, that could touch on so many different genres. I think that was one of the strengths of it, is that you could get
right,
so much out of it.
definitely. Yeah, and we did. Fortunately, we did touch on some of the questions that we had about it, like the different visuals, the mixed
Hmm.
bag, the different genres that it covered. Um, I think
Yeah.
it's. I mean, once it was considered state of the art, but I think it's. I mean, I would say some of the content hasn't aged well because of the society, but I think the art itself is still fine. I mean,
Yeah, I think as far as like the animation techniques, I think it's great that there are different techniques because that just strengthens the art and style of
mhm.
each segment. I think it really plays into that and helps accentuate the voice of the artist, and the different tone of each one. I think it is showing its age, right?
Yeah,
And at first I was a little disappointed, but the more I watched segments, the more I realized how good, some of the animation still holds up. It's not going to hold up, and just technology has come so far.
right, right.
But it's also, I think the nature of the movie helps with that because it's so artistic and so much more of a quirky nature to some of it that it's almost the art itself is fine because it kind of leads to that more artistic intent and makes if it was perfectly polished, I think some of those segments would lose some of their character.
Yeah,
Part of the
I
character
like
is
the
the nature of the
graininess.
art.
I like the graininess and the lines like in Harry Canyon, right? All the you see like the
Exactly.
you see his like unshaven face, the
And
redneck looks nasty because of all the folds in his skin, that kind of stuff is
yeah, and as far as like, I mean, other stuff at the time, I think it holds up great compared to other rotoscoped and other animations at
yep.
the time. I mean, the other animations that might look a little better when I really analyze it, it's because they're simpler.
Hmm.
It's like if I look at like something like Watership Down, I'm like, oh, the animation that was really bad. I'm like, but they're not doing as much.
Yeah, there are a lot of landscapes that they put in the background of this.
Yeah, a lot of painted backgrounds and things where it's like when you look at specifically the segment with the next to last, that what's that one called? That was called So Beautiful, So Dangerous. We
Yeah.
talked about like in the background there.
Mhm.
What I've forgotten is when they were flying through some of those backgrounds, there is so much complexity in the background layers and animations of like all the little drawn cables and everything, and they're not just a flat mat. They're
Yeah.
flying through them and around them, and they're different layers that are moving. That really it's a lot more complex than I remembered it being, and that helps it hold up a lot.
Yeah.
My favorite scene, animation wise, without a doubt, is just that little mining scene at the beginning of
Mhm.
Harry Canyon. That mining scene is so well done. I almost wonder if it was like done as like separately as like a um, by the same animation house, of course, but as a like a promo or a teaser to the studio of what the work was going to look like, because it
Yeah.
seems to be a higher quality of than everything else in the movie. But it's fantastic, and it's part of it might just be because it is so direct lifted from the Mobius artwork.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful.
Yeah, so there is some controversy, right? The film is known for its gratuitous violence, nudity. I don't know. I don't think the violence is that gratuitous, honestly, compared to a lot of stuff I see. Nudity, sexual content.
No,
But I mean, it has come from Heavy Metal Magazine, which is, an
extreme already.
adult-ish, yeah, extreme adult magazine. So do you think it's too much, or do you think it's fine? Is it
I
you
I
needed an
got
adult-oriented fantasy? I mean,
I don't know if it's needed, but I think that some younger audiences might see some of the ideas as dated. I think, it's like thinking about like how old would I be with my son before I watch this and what would I have to talk to him about beforehand?
yeah,
Um, I think for me, a big part of it fits with the tone. Um, in that I think a lot of it. and it doesn't even matter if it was intended this way to begin in the beginning. A lot of art like this does this for me, where even if it was very serious intent in the beginning, once if it's lucky enough to age in a way so that it becomes tongue in cheek, then it still plays well for me. Which is a lot of it in this is very tongue in cheek, like a Vanderhoven film.
Yeah.
Um, and it's
It,
definitely, I would explain to my son, like, this is the era, this is what it is in there. And I don't think I'd have cringed 2 months once I'd explained that to him if he was old enough to see the violence
yeah.
and nudity. And I was,
Yeah.
because so much of it comes off as that exaggerated, tongue-in-cheek irony. And the comedy helps in that. For example, in Den, where there's a lot of nudity, a lot of sex and violence, and so much of it comes across tongue-in-cheek. And then so much of the probably some of the worst is some of the like in So Beautiful, So Dangerous, some of the comments about the girls and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and kind of a little bit male gaze exploitative if you want to.
Yeah.
But even it, if as long as you, I think, take it in the context in advance, it almost becomes the thing that would make it offensive is to take it seriously. But in retrospect, even if they were taking it seriously, it's comedic. It almost becomes comedic on itself,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
mean, like Harry Canyon makes fun of himself, or he
Yeah.
cracks a joke when the sex scene is he's narrating the sex scene, right?
Yeah, and I
Same with
think
Dan.
long term the movie benefits from that, in that it is a lot of tongue in cheek and Tarn at the end, like we said, there's a lot of female display and a lot of the classic trope of the girl with in the chainmail bikini
Chainmail
type.
bikini, yeah, type.
But to its credit, it's very female empowering. Other than that, right? I think that the whole idea, and especially for its time, that the main protagonist and is female and she doesn't come out of this from weakness, she comes out of it from strength, and she's not saved by anyone, and even if she gets beat up she sacrifices herself, all things that you normally see at the time, especially as being more male.
Yeah, and at the
So
end, the girl overcomes the she doesn't succumb to the Lochnar, right?
mhm.
Father is disintegrated instantly. She has the willpower to go through its lectures or whatever you want to call it. It's Lochnar explaining and survive, and so
Yeah, and there's always, when it comes to the whole chainmail bikini thing, there's always the other argument of that where everyone forgets that Conan was always wearing a loincloth in the art at the time too.
well,
So it's not like he was,
Dan was naked
yeah.
until
And I mean, so
but,
it's just part and partial of some of
yeah,
that style. I mean, in the actual literature, Conan wore, you know, armor and everything else. He was fully clothed, and in a lot of that, the pulp stuff that it comes from,
yeah,
the
so
the females were not wearing chainmail and bikini. It's just the art style
yeah,
of the time, and
art
the
style. Yeah, so
um,
we did mention we I was mentioning some of the soundtrack. So artists like Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult, Sammy
mhm.
Hagar. Do you think that the music selection complements and drives the narrative?
I think it does. I think it does. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah. Re-listening to Stern, I mean, totally. It's the chase scene is that reach out by Cheap Trick really works. I mean,
and I think in some cases also the fact that there are some songs in there that you know but may not recognize,
mhm,
because they're so layered into that part of the narrative.
yeah,
You were like, when I was watching it this time, I was looking at the soundtrack. I was like, was that in there? And then I went back and watched it. I was like, oh yeah, there it is. I just never noticed because it's not like we turned down the movie and just jam this music because it's like, hey, everybody will watch this because it's got popular music in it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it has things like that are in the background that aren't as open, like "Blue Lamp" by Stevie Nicks, for example.
Hmm.
A song,
I think that uh, Blue Oyster Cult, um,
the veteran,
uh,
the veteran of the psychic.
veterans of the yeah, I always get it wrong. The Psychic Wars,
Yeah,
like that song is layered in the background. It's
that. Yeah. I
it's
mean,
not like out in the
"Crazy"
open.
by Nazareth. I mean, yeah, it's good. There's they're just in the background. They're part of it, which is kind of nice. I think it
Yeah.
works. And I mean, Devo. I think it not as maybe well known as obviously Black Sabbath and Sammy Hagar, Blue Oyster Cult, but
Yeah,
but
and I
Devo
think like
also at
like
the time.
Journeys, I mean, I think to me it's a good cross sampling of some music at the time with some deeper cuts, and I think it works well. As
Mhm.
far as like as a soundtrack that it this is the thing for me as a soundtrack. Like, did the movie provide a vehicle, and did the movie was the soundtrack quote unquote of heavy metal like a cultural touchstone? I don't think so as much for me, but maybe again, I might be too young, but to me it doesn't feel that way, and mostly because like a lot of the music in it, um, a lot of the biggest hits out of it were released also on other albums at the time.
Right.
So like that, like Open Arms, same year that
Mhm.
song came out on the Journey album.
Yeah.
I didn't look at like Hagar, like heavy metal, and when that came out, but so a lot of these other songs they came out on their albums the same time. It wasn't like the album was the vehicle for that
Right.
music,
That's true.
which worked against it. I think if I remember looking back, there was also like some major licensing issues and delays on
Oh,
the
me.
soundtrack releasing at the time.
Mhm.
So it by the time it was in wide distribution, the albums from the artists had the original songs out. So um, it didn't. I don't think it made as much of an impact from a quote unquote soundtrack, like buying the soundtrack release. But I'd be curious to hear from people that are older than me that maybe were more in their teenage years when this was released
Yeah, I think it
in
was almost an
81.
homage because I mean, even like Black Sabbath, Mob Rules, that album came out also in 1981, right?
Yeah.
Um, so
So
I
I
think a
don't
lot
know,
of these
dude.
songs were contemporary or are happening right at the same time, and these artists
Unlike a lot of
in the
soundtracks where they either
zeitgeist,
had original music from those artists or
right?
those were individual tracks that weren't released until much later by the artist or something like that, where it was a soundtrack.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's probably why.
Mhm.
But I think I mean, it's definitely a good representation culturally, a lot of the music at the time, and a lot of music. There's might be some people take exception to a couple songs in there and saying, well, it wasn't really part of that culture of heavy metal magazine. But I think it's hard to say that a lot of it wasn't. People at the time who were playing D&D and reading heavy metal weren't listening to these songs.
Right. And the music in between was actually composed by Elmer Bernstein, who did
Oh,
over 150 other original film scores. So,
yeah.
well, I mean, but it makes sense. I'm looking at the Stripes, Meatballs, blah blah blah. He knew these guys.
Yeah, yeah.
He knew, the producers, etc. He's part of uh, that house, I guess, right?
I think the movie probably benefited too from, in general, in its longevity and everything else, and its tone from Reitman's involvement and all the people he knew, because even like the comedic aspects of it are how what helps it age well, really well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's the legacy of it too, right? Is that I mean, I don't know if it's quite influenced other animated films or media, but it's become a cult classic. And then, when you hear those songs on the radio or whatever, you're like, oh yeah, that's from heavy metal, or I remember it. Or,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
one of the things we wanted to touch on is kind of those, that and that. Is it really genuinely edgy, rebellious art, or is it more surface level, just kind of teen boy fan service? Um, and I think it's pretty rebellious. And I think part of it is just the artistic freedom they had between each one and the lack of continuity that was pressed down. Like, this is not a movie that the studio came in and said, like, I need you to use this animator and this scene needs to be this way. You can really tell.
yeah,
I think that really keeps it heartfelt from the artists. And even like the most to me, other than like some of the sword and chainmail bikini stuff, I think that the most direct, like teen boy demographic outreach is probably Den, which
yeah,
ironically is to me one of the most heartfelt, genuine stories in there. I mean, it's just,
yeah. Especially
it's,
because he doesn't like he's not he doesn't be he's just a kid. He's an innocent kid thrown in the situation, and he is able to throw out the influence of the Lochnar, right, or
yeah. And I
not
think it's
succumb to
just,
the power grab, right?
yeah, I think there's something very genuine about it, even if it is all that teenage stuff with the, getting the girl and being the strong, hero and everything. But it's very genuine and from the heart in that it does directly just speak to the young boys at that age and what they're
Mm-hmm.
going through, feelings of inadequacy, trying to find their place, what it means to, all their dreams about, being strong and not being picked on and getting the girl and being accepted and just this. I think that ironically that's kind of the case in that the most quote unquote surface level potential direct targeting of that demo is probably one of the deeper, more heartfelt and honest pieces of it. So I think it's kind of I think I would say it's more than just, you know, chain bikinis and heavy metal music.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
And I think that's part of what it why it's a cult classic because it really kind of captures the spirit, you know, um of the magazine and the art, and that culture of people at the time playing D&D and into fantasy. I think it really goes through, and part of it is that freedom to be able to explore all the little different aspects because everybody had a different D&D and everybody had a different fantasy and sci-fi they liked, and the fact that it could explore a lot of it in different ways was
Hmm.
able to touch at some point on, you know, everybody differently, and everybody could find something in it that wasn't, you know, part of that culture.
Yeah.
I think it's had some influence from a legacy perspective, for sure.
So like,
Um,
in what do you think?
So I think it opened up that you could do this, and I think it set kind of a template for more bold projects, and that you could go out and do these things and not worry about, you know, being having to pander. I think that if you look at modern stuff, like the most modern stuff are the series stuff, like say Love, Death, and Robots.
Hmm. Oh well, I was gonna thank you for mentioning that. So there, the one of the in the new Love, Death, and Robots, there's definitely one of the segments in the newest one. You could see B-17 in that one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, so it's pretty interesting. How, so you're right, like you know, things like Love, Sex, and Robots. You know, are I would say they definitely have their influence from that, and those are great. I love those stories. That also different artists, different types of art. You know, from the one that looks live CGI to your standard cartoon. You know.
Yeah, and different tone. I think it's hard to escape its legacy when you look at things like that. I mean, there are other stuff that came out at the time that are influential, you know, Wizards, Fire and Ice,
Yeah.
that stuff. But I think this is where it really able to extend its legacy because I think those are hurt, while they influence, they're a single story, they're a
Hmm.
single genre. Whereas like something like this can be so widely influential, from not just the content, all the different content that could have inspired people to do different things. I
Hmm.
mean, look at the image behind you. It's like when you think of like things like the live action version of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I
Yep.
think of like the robot design and looking back at images like this, it's you
Hmm.
see so many different pieces of influence there, and and so it has that benefit while also being able to influence the idea of a non-contiguous and open artist free, um uh and I just went blank on the word, but culmination of multiple stories, without having to have them stick within narrow parameters. You know, give the artist the freedom, say like, oh, we're just doing something fantasy or something sci-fi, do whatever you want, whatever art style, what kind of artist you are, just do something that's you.
Yeah.
um And I think, you know, it probably is benefited because so much of what it did was already taken from artists who were just highly influential long
Yeah.
term. You know, Angus McKee, Mobius. It's hard when you're taking their stuff and being trying to be kind of true to that to
Hmm.
not have the movie itself be influential because it's already coming from such influential art at the time. I think something that really the closest thing I don't know if anyone's ever recreated something directly like this. Definitely Fact 2, the sequel was not good.
No. No.
I mean, it wasn't a bad movie, but I was completely disappointed that it wasn't an anthology.
Yeah, it was
And that's the
nothing
word I
like
was
that.
looking for, anthology.
Oh, well, no, Fantasia came way before this, I think, right? As
I
an
think Fantasia did. Yeah. But I mean, I think they should have just done another anthology. That's what everyone wanted from heavy metal too,
yeah,
because if anything, people wanted to see the new artists on display and new stories, and they didn't want to see this one longer
one
story.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing that's come closest to this, even though it's in a it's a, you can't escape the influence. You're like, yeah, this is they just stole the structure from heavy metal, and even like a lot of the narrative MacGuffin type idea. But it's definitely in a narrower band because it's all by the same artist. And I don't know if the different segments are written by the same author, but I think they were. But it is movie called The Spine of Night.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I don't know what year that came out. It's a little hard to get a hold of. You can pay to watch it on a few streaming services. I watched it through my
2021, actually, if that's what you.
yeah, that's it, 2021. I watched it through my local library. It was the only place I could find it. Their online app. Outstanding. If you like heavy metal movie, go watch that. You're gonna
Mm-hmm.
love it. Because everything to it's more modern art, but the art style, the dialogue, the narrative flow, the types of story it tells, it's heavy metal. And it's really good. It's a worthy. I don't know if it was directly homaged to it, but it's a worthy successor. Much more fantasy oriented, where this one had heavy metal had a lot more sci-fi and stuff.
Well,
But
the guy who wrote says, the guy who was the people who were the people who produced Spine of Night also were involved in Love, Death, and Robots.
oh, so I mean, yeah, it's kind of interesting. The little talk about spheres of influence there, influential. But yeah, I highly recommend Spine of Night. Really good if you haven't seen that.
Cool. All right. Well, I have one maybe off the wall question. Maybe not off the wall, not for us. But one more question. So, which one of these would you like to see as a con adventure?
Oh man, oof.
And then what system? Ha! Forbidden
Oh,
question.
I was not prepared for this. Let me see. I think I honestly think the two that I would probably think are the best for adventures are I want to avoid saying den because I think it would be
That's
so
okay.
much fun. You could do so many different things.
You could.
Um, but I think maybe I think probably Harry um,
Harry Canyon.
Harry
Yeah,
Canyon
that world
or
building would be
the
really neat.
B-17. The B-17 would be good for a
I
one
could
shot.
for one shot at B-17. I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for the B-17 you do something like you did do something like a Call of Cthulhu type system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, maybe if you're stretching it, although it might be a little too much magic-y and fantastical to do like a Achtung Cthulhu, too much sorcery in that and stuff. Because I want it more to be like a survival horror.
Yeah, as opposed
Um,
to
yeah, and then
pulp
Harry Canyon,
kick ass horror. Harry
you could do
Canyon.
Harry
Yeah,
Canyon in so many different systems. Any cyberpunk system would
cyberpunk.
work for that. Um, especially with the tone of it, I think it'd be much
You could do
funner to
like a
do.
traveler Cepheus.
Yeah, something much less crunchy, even though there is some combat. It's more about that like hard-boiled
Yeah.
uh noir type thing. I think
Mhm.
that would be a really fun one to run.
Yeah.
So, what about you? Do you have like did you already prep one or are you just gonna
No,
put me on the
not
spot?
yet. But I think about Den. I mean, I was thinking about using like Den and then use any OSE or even
You know
any
what would be great for
OSR
Den?
really, even
What would be
Hyperborea, but you could play Beastmen too or something like
for
that.
Den? What would be fantastic is a DCC.
Oh, DCC would totally
Yeah,
even the art style, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's got that art style too.
I think that would be a
What's
great
that
DCC
author? That's
game.
that author. Mole. What's the author that does all the DCC stuff?
Oh, all of the art.
Peter Mullen.
Yeah, Peter Mullen.
Yeah, Peter Mullen art's totally right. So yeah,
Yeah, I think it just fits it. That would be awesome. I think here's
coming to a
another.
con, Matt's gonna or Darkfluid's gonna run it.
Oh, is that?
No, I don't
I'll
know.
have to figure it
That's a good
out.
idea. DCC would be great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
DCC would be a fun one because you can get out there.
yeah.
So I got one
I mean,
other
you'd have to make it
interest.
PG-13. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, it depends what time of night you ran
true.
it.
Or if you
I
just
uh I got another interesting question that occurred to me watching it this last time,
yeah.
and it's just a little bit like meta, but in watching that last scene where you have these two things happening simultaneously, and then they talk about the Oracle of Time, did all these segments happen potentially at once, or even some in the past, some in the future? I'm thinking it more of like a time is irrelevant to the Lochnar type thing because it's
I
almost
think
like
so.
Tarna and the sequence with her, like I guess you would call it the soft landing sequence or Grimaldi. Um, almost occurring simultaneously because the Lochnar was destroyed in both places at once.
Yeah, maybe it's multiversal even, right?
Yeah, it almost feels like that, where it's like not that time is happening simultaneously or before and after, but that it's almost irrelevant. And the Lochnar is in multiple places at
Right.
once, seeing all
Yeah,
things.
that's
And
great. That reminds me of a lot of like cosmic villains, that they can be in multiple places and multiple times, as they
yeah,
across the multiverse. But yeah, that seems like that could be. And the Oracle that they're talking about is like the Watcher, right? That watches.
yeah. So it just struck me. I don't know why it never struck me before, but this watching of all the years, I just struck me as that. So
Yeah, that's good. It was a fun watch again. Really.
yeah. And I'm kind of curious if anyone, it seems so obvious for something like Den to be DCC. I'm wondering if anyone's put together a DCC heavy metal adventure or something like
Maybe.
that.
I'm sure someone has at some point.
It seems like the natural
Yeah,
fit.
you could do it Tarna too, right? That verse, that sort of but then everyone would want to be a Tarakian.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be nobody wants to be the kid who's trying to get the door barred and gets
Yeah. Right. Well, thanks
no
so
one wants to
much,
be the
Darkfluid,
sidekick.
for joining me today to talk about a heavy metal, review it, and we talked about many different aspects of it. I would say go watch it. It is rated R.
Hmm.
If you're a parent, well, maybe watch it first before you introduce it to your kids, of course. But I think it has some really nice set of stories, nice vignettes. If you watch Love, Death, and Robots, you could see the influence there, A Spine of the
Hmm.
Night that Dark Fluid mentioned as well. So
Yeah. 2021, The Spine of Night might be well, heavy metal is not that easy to watch right now without paying for it.
no,
And Spine of Night probably even harder to find, but
yeah, you could watch heavy metal. We found in the archive. What is it? The library
the
archive.
internet the Internet Archive. I don't
Yeah.
know what the legality of sources like that are. I would never suggest people go do that, but there, if you are outside of the U.S. and in certain zones, I imagine you have wider
Yeah. I know you can
options
you can
available to
buy
you.
it on like Netflix and other channels.
Yep, definitely for sale in some places or for rent.
Cool.
So go out, watch it, and if you
Or if
haven't
you've
seen
seen
it
it
before,
recently, comment what you heard here and let us know what you think. And if you totally disagree, that's even better.
yeah. Oh, and it looks like Spine of Night you can rent on Prime Video now. So hey,
There you go. All
a little more widely available. So that's another one I highly recommend. So
right. Thanks again, Dark Fluid. We will talk to you soon.
yeah, had a great time. Thanks.